not from here. I am an alien.
Hey Pete, how you doing, man?
I'm well, dude. I'm glad we got to settle. Again, I'm sorry about the time difference and stuff. I'm still working on that.
It's all good. Trust me, I always have time issues because I mean sometimes I'm especially like when I'm as consistently like someone from California, I'm already like in my head, okay, 2 hours, ahead. And then all of a sudden I get hit with somebody from like mountain time. So I'm like, okay, let me figure this out.
You're like carry the two instead of the one.
Yes,
Got it.
yes,
All right. So you're like
exactly.
17 hours ahead, right? That's what it is. All right, fantastic.
Exactly. And but you know what? When I use the Google Calendar, that really helps me out because it schedules it to the time where I'm at, you know.
Dude, I was not used to getting a Google like a calendar invite from someone else. Like I'm used to just being able
Oh,
to have like okay, I'll talk to our cast assistant. We'll get that like the Google invite out. I'll send it out. So that's why in my schedule I had 12 Pacific, and I was like, huh. And then I looked at my calendar. I was like, oh shit, he sent me an invite for 10 a.m. Well, okay, touche. That's on me. My bad.
what do
That's
you
on
what do
me.
you like to use for scheduling?
I really just say whatever that person's time is, and I put it in my calendar as that. But I literally just put 12 PST, thinking that that's what we were saying.
Oh, okay, I see.
So I'm just used to like being like, oh yeah, here's my schedule. Okay, you guys are ahead of me. I'll set this up. The other way around, completely went over my head. So
Oh,
that's
dang.
that's
Yeah.
that's on me.
So how
So
you
like, oh,
doing, man?
I'm well, dude. I'm well. I mean, LA is kind of like opening back up.
Okay.
So like we're getting into that phase where it's like the world's kind of returning to some form of normalcy, but like LA
Right.
is like half like 1 foot in and then like 1 foot on a banana peel, where like you don't know
Yeah.
whether it's gonna be good or it's just gonna be terrible. Like
Right. Right.
so we're in that little stage.
Right. And I mean it's great that now that we have a lot of it's good that a lot of places are trying that out different things so that way you could kind of see what'll work,
Yeah.
for the most part. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I'm in Texas, and it seems like things are working out to where, if you want to go out, that's fine. But if you want to be safe, or if you even want to feel safe, wear a mask or get your
Yep.
vaccine shot. And I mean, now people are getting vaccinated, and they're all wandering without their mask. I'm like, hey, whatever makes you feel safe, it's up to you.
Exactly. I mean, they're coming up with incentives. They're like they're not doing like full Oprah where they're like you get a car and you get a car. They're like you get a $10 gift card and you get like a $50 gift card. Like that's what they're doing now, which is completely okay with. But like yeah, it at least it's opening back up. There's some form of normalcy, but it's still going to be that weird spot of like you know get the vaccine, not to get the vaccine, stay 6 feet apart, wear your mask. Like we're still in that weird phase, but hopefully as long as everyone can just keep taking a baby steps forward, like end of 2021 we'll be happy.
Right.
Like at least one can hope.
Yeah. And my whole
And like I said, that's still that foot on that banana peel in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We're still on that one.
Yeah, and I mean my whole thing is like I it's like we need to have, personal responsibility. We need to also take care of ourselves so that way we don't have to rely on anybody to tell us what to do, tell us what to eat, and so that way we can at least protect our bodies the best way that we can.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that like what we're kind of getting into at this point is um I just want to make sure like my camera's still good. I was like, did I just cut that off a little bit? Um, but like we're getting to the point now where they're legitimate experts in things that like more people are looking into that, taking care of themselves, their own body, whether it be like their mind, whether it be their body, whether it be like to a lot of people. A lot of people are looking into like what do I want to digest to make myself better more, which shouldn't that be what we want?
Right. Right. And I mean, just
So
like anything, it takes a lot of work. And I feel like that's another reason why a lot of people, I feel like they take the easy way out. They want, they want the pills, they want the drugs to make them feel better. It's like, no, it takes a lot of work in order
you
to feel good.
yeah, I mean, and like honestly, whether you are a some like athlete, someone that's recovering with addiction, whether it's just like someone that's in a funk, like, yo, there are a lot of shitty moments before you can feel like the person or the thing that you want to. You got to go through all those shitty moments. And I think like,
Right.
I feel like COVID, looking at like the glass half full, COVID, all of this stuff in the last year should have like given people that kind of perspective where like, yo, this last year was kind of hard. All different aspects of our lives, personally, professionally, romantically, platonically, like, man, I need to work on like my own circle, myself, for this to get better. So like, you want to hope that at least that's what I did. I feel like I fucking, sorry, I don't know how you feel about the F word on here.
Go for it. You can say whatever you want.
All right, fantastic. I'm just gonna let this shit fly. But like, you know, that's what I feel like COVID. I mean, I feel like I flourished in COVID, like throughout everything, because in a weird way, like shit happened. I was fortunate to be able to still have like work throughout all of this, but like I liked the isolation. Honestly, it was like a weird personal rehab,
right?
Where like you assessed yourself and all, and you assessed, you know, what you were, the content you were putting out. Like you assessed like how your eating habits, you assessed all of these things because you were forced to be like, oh shit, I watched all those zombie apocalypse movies. I don't know if I'd be able to survive yet. And like people flocked, like, I can do this. Mind you, some of us went absolutely batshit crazy on toilet paper. So like zombie apocalypse, probably some of us probably out day one. If you are focusing on toilet paper, out day one.
Right.
But I do feel like I could at least last 2 months.
Right.
I think that's my tap out, just 2 months.
Yeah. And that's when, you know, I kind of like, I'm a very like introvert person. So I like being alone, but there are those times where you're just, and it's already too much of being alone. Like you need to get a hold of somebody, you need to talk to somebody, because when you're alone, I mean, it's nothing but you and your thoughts. And
Right.
sometimes your thoughts can be scary, and sometimes, you know, it can lead you to anxiety. And you know, it's good to have even somebody there with you to share whatever's in your head, to just let that flourish.
I mean, some kind of form of engagement.
Yes.
Like you do need that. You need some kind of form of engagement, whether it be, you know, FaceTiming family, whether it be, you know, hanging, like having some kind of engagement with a friend. Like the isolation skill, but you know, again with like it showed you this. It showed you the capabilities of being able to connect with people from the comforts of your own home. Still, like it's not that real, like personal touch. But being able to have these kinds of engagements with people in something, whether it be video gamers, whether it be people playing online, those things, like your isolation is great, but we're still human beings. Like the one thing about humans are we are social creatures still.
Right.
Like we are very much social creatures. That's why like you go through all the weird history books, everything. You see like all the different types of people that were traveling along the road. They traveled in those little packs. Like, no one was being like, oh man, you remember that one guy that we're talking about that saved everyone? And by everyone I mean himself, because he just walked. No, I don't. Don't remember that one.
Right. And I feel like even with COVID, it gave us like a innovational step, because you know, now with all this technology blowing up, and even just like we talked about, like Zoom calls and connections. Like I remember growing up, I used to be thinking like, man, I wonder what this person is doing in the other state. I wonder what this person is doing in another country. And now, you know, I'm over here in Texas and you're in California, and it's like nothing. It's normal now.
It's like it very much is in real time.
Yeah.
Like in real time, I could pick up my phone and call you, and at the same time, your phone's gonna ring.
Right.
And it's like, this is currently going on in that moment. It's going, and it's fascinating, and it's fascinating. It's scary. Like you see, you know, and that's content. What you're doing in general is content. Everyone at this day and age is creating content because you're on some form of social media platform. You know, if you're talking to somebody that isn't on a form of social media platform, I work on a show called Catfish. Let me know. I will gladly go and check that person out because I think that they're lying. Like
Mhm.
everyone is on some form of social media, some form of platform that they are generating content. Doesn't matter if you're just making a status, yo, that's content.
Right. You think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a gift and a curse. I think what we need, like what's going to get in, what we're going to move into is a more of, you're going to have to be able to figure out how to digest the proper content for everyone. I mean, you think about, I don't know if you have children.
I have one. Yeah.
So you have a child. My niece is 6. My nephew's over there. Like they're going to be learning more from these things, from these platforms than their teachers.
Mm.
Like I don't think we take that into consideration now, because you have to think back in the day when we were growing up, we were in school, and then we were out of school, we were running around, or we had like those weird zoo books,
Right.
or like books, like that's what we had. We weren't able to just be like, all right, engage. Here, boom,
Right.
boom. We had a Game Boy that ran out of power, like
Right.
Super Nintendo and stuff like that. Even that, you couldn't dive into that too much. Like especially like for my end, I couldn't play online because I grew up in the boonies, I didn't have internet. Like that dial up and everything. Like, oh god, like wasn't able to do that. But now it's a gift where you are able to absorb so much. You can learn so much. I can trust people that learn a lot, not armchair research and be like, so I watched this thing once on YouTube. And no, not that time.
Right. Right.
But because you're able to engage in this stuff, you're able to get a lot of this. You're able to read and see things from direct experts. So like people that you learn about in your school books can bypass those fucking chapters and go right to their lives and be able to see them doing stuff. So you can learn it exactly from them. You can take a master class from somebody where, I'd have to go through all these channels to finally see them back in the day. But now I can go ahead and take a 16-hour course on space science.
Right.
What? Like, it's fascinating the way that we can do it. However, in that same vein, you go mental health, I think correlates directly with content. And like, whenever you're looking at mental health wise, if you're in a dark spot, algorithms read off of what you pick. So if you are constantly looking at something that is negative, terrible, all of this stuff, your algorithms around all forms of social media, all forms of platforms will aggregate that. And so the content that you're ingesting isn't stuff that might benefit you, benefit your family, benefit your mental health even. That stuff might take you in a dark spot. Like, right. So it is a gift, and it is an absolute curse.
Yeah. And it's another thing that us as humans we're gonna have to balance. And with COVID, I feel like we didn't do such a good job handling it. And now, I mean, with COVID, we didn't do such a good handling with it. Imagine now, AI, or even if things become more into technology.
Well, I mean, here, like I said this to you before, Aristotle had said art imitates life. And then Oscar Wilde came back and was like, no, time. Art can imitate life, but I think life imitates art. Mm-hmm. And then when it came down to it, this guy Dostoevsky wrote in, he's a philosopher, or did a lot of psychological work, psychology and everything, did a lot of literature, and was also a journalist. And he came through this entire idea of like, life will find its existence through the arts. Mm-hmm. And like, I think that's where we're at now, where it's like a lot of people are looking towards, you're thinking art. And by arts, it's across the board now. It's content, it's podcasting, it's fucking music. These are all forms of content. And I think people are looking at these things so much more.
Yes.
Their partners, find out about, their life, find out, if that thing is healthy or not that they just ate, find out if that thing is healthy that their dog just ate. Like, so many people are finding these things through the arts, through content. And yeah, I think with COVID, people rushed to it so much that it's gonna take a few years to really start to divvy up between what's bullshit and what can possibly benefit us. Yeah. And I think that not even to get political, but that goes across the spectrum from like healthy stuff to political stuff. Like, you don't know because of everything thrown out there.
Yeah, I feel like this is also like kind of like a learning curve of this new thing. And hopefully eventually throughout time we're learning, I mean, we eventually learn from it and we really know how to use it. And even it, to me, it's kind of weird because um a lot of at least from what I've what I think of it is a lot of AI is mostly data based on her history or based on current events. But us as humans, we're always making mistakes, and our history is pretty messed up. So is I wonder if it's ever gonna be balanced out, or is it just always gonna have to like readapt.
Um, man, this might be controversial. I'm a proponent of chaos.
Mm,
I believe that there should be chaos is needed in order for balance. And so, like, think of a fire or think of a volcano. It's terrible. These things happen. Nature happens. But when after those things are up, the things that grow out of it
right.
can be beautiful. And sometimes, like, where we're at, you're right. As humans, we have a fucked up past. I still don't think that we've made amends to the shit that humans have done across the board to each other, to fucking planet. So, like, yeah, these things building up, I think it's a matter of time. I do think that we'll find a balance of things, but I do. And you know what? If it comes down to some like Terminator, Skynet, AI type shit to be like, well, time out, guys, we need to reel this in. Like, if it comes down to that, pretty sure Bill Gates called it. Pretty sure Bill Gates, no. Stephen Hawking said like not to trust AI.
Yeah.
So yeah, Stephen Hawking called it. Like, we should probably listen. We probably should listen.
Right. Yeah. Now you have a lot of people like you said, Stephen Hawking, and even Elon Musk has talked about like this is gonna be some shit that's gonna be scary, and if we don't manage it, it's gonna get out of control.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it, like Elon Musk is like, I mean, again, phenomenal. The dude knows how to create money digitally for people. What?
I said all kinds of shit.
All kinds of shit. Like, you can't, like, all kinds of shit. Like, Elon Musk can do all kinds of shit. And even just name his baby numbers and letters, because whatever.
Right.
But like, he can get away with some things, tons of shit. And like, for him to say that, yeah, terrifying. Also, side note, dude, stop self-driving cars then.
Right. Right.
Like, that's my thing. Like, don't tell us, oh man, we got to be prepared. We got to be concerned. We got to be doing this. By the way, buy this shit.
Right.
I got a lot of cool stuff that sometimes you don't even need to do. I want to connect you to the cloud. But by the way, we should be concerned about it. But like, I want to connect you to the cloud. You're either in or out. Because again, not to go full circle, Elon Musk is very much is like one foot's in and the other foot very much is on that banana peel.
Right.
So like, yeah, those things are terrifying. The AI stuff, like, I mean, what was it? Alice? Was Alice released 2 years ago or so?
Mm-hmm.
And like, she was like, they did an interview with her and she was talking. And then I think Facebook had a run-in where they were working with their AI, and then they decided to create a language between each other. And so, like, again, not conspiracy, but they noticed so that the AI then was starting to create a language that it could understand, so it could process some things. And they're like, did you do that?
Right.
Margaret, did you do that? No. Maybe Kevin did. No, Kevin? No.
Right.
We don't know who did that. And then the computer's just like listening, be like, probably like, haha, I got it. And they were like, no, we're gonna shut this down. Like, it's fascinating to know what we're capable of, which is, as humans, awesome.
Right.
But we are our worst enemies.
Yeah. And I feel like in the sense, like this is a step that we have to go through, like this, because throughout evolution, this is something that I feel like we do have to go through. But it's kind of scary when we just, when you speed up and you move things so fast without even thinking about it or without even checking the little details, that's when things can get out of hand. And, in the past, luckily, we haven't gotten a hand with a lot of stuff. But I mean, who knows between 10 or 20 years from now?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, I've worked in the conspiracy realm before, and like, you can see things. I mean, listen, the US, we're 2 days away, man. 2 days away from the declassified UFO documents. They're launching in June. They already came out about that. Like, all these things are happening where we're things that can't be explained. And then you want to think about technology, and sometimes where they're, you know, the military professionals that talk about the tech that you see that's unidentified, they're like,
Right.
those are 50 to 100 years ahead of us in tech.
Right.
Time out. Like the normal number that we're hearing is like, this is 10 to 15 years in tech. We got stuff that we're 50 years ahead. We got stuff that we're 100 years ahead. Why can't we know about these things? Tell us a little bit, because it's terrifying. Like you can only let people know so much, but you want to hope. And again, you want to always look at a glass half full. Like I said, like, oh man, it's terrifying. What the hell are you doing? But you want to hope that through this tech and through the opportunity that you saw just with COVID and how you can connect with people, that all of these things, that there's some capacity that can, because you made a good point, fix some of the terrible shit that we as humans already did. Like you can't, isn't there like, why are like 12-year-old kids
Right.
somehow figuring out tech to be able to like have like a nice filter system to get clean water?
Right.
And yet like somebody just said, no, more taxes on marijuana.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Right.
What?
Right. Even like as far as even construction, you know, it's weird because instead of like, let's say for a small city, instead of just focusing on one city and making that city great, what they end up doing is just expanding all the construction and more and more and more. I feel like we're just never satisfied. We always want more and more and more, but then again, we never look back and say, you know what? We need to fix that shit that we did and let's make it, great. So that way, whatever we make after that, it could be just as the same.
Like, yeah, I mean, look at, you look at DC, for instance, you look at like the Washington Monument and stuff, all that land that's dedicated and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And then everything around it's like, the city and everyone's crammed around it. This is all over the place. Like you go to the pyramids of Giza. Ever see like the far shot of it?
Yeah.
Because you see the pyramids of Giza, you're, oh my God, this is gorgeous. And then you look at the far shot and you're like, they packed everyone around it. Taj Mahal, after that, beyond it's always packed. Like we've done some shit as humans.
Yeah.
we're taken away from some things. And you want to be like, we could have done some things better, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's really, I never want to like be too negative with it, but like, very proud of the old generation,
right,
of like our parents' generation. They fucked us on a lot of things. Like,
yeah,
like they did. I mean, let's be honest. Like our family was like, they were shoving all kinds of weird like food and everything down our mouth, and now it's coming out like, yo, bleh.
Yeah.
But you've got to figure the transfer of information. And like now we're able to look at these things. We're able to trust some experts. We're able to see some things where it's like, you know what? I wouldn't have done this with that. I wouldn't have done this. And like generations, you think that gets better and better. So like you want to hope, and I want to think that your child, my niece, my nephews, like that generation that's coming up, like we're setting things up like technologically, whatever it may be, even like community wise, that like they'll be like, all right, hey, yeah, before we like get the hell out of here and go to space, like maybe we can make some things to like, I don't know, help the housing crisis in Los Angeles, or I don't know, help the water crisis in Flint, or I don't know, like maybe there's some things that we can work on technologically, all of these things to be able to like work, fund, help situations that as humans, we fucked up on that.
Right.
We missed those people. Whoops.
Right.
Like, but
yeah.
And all right, so I'll get off my soapbox now.
And see, it's good now that we have a bunch of platforms where we can get information from, where we could do our own research and and whatever we beliefs we have, it's good to always have data to back it up. And, back to the old generation, I feel like in the old generation, they just had these platforms, like 3 or 5 platforms. I don't know exactly, but I'm sure it was way less than now, where they would listen to. And I mean, and I like to believe that as a parent, you want to do what's best. but if you're listening to people that don't use the data or don't even have enough technology to back up what they say, then you could only do so much. And they done like some research, and how food has gotten even better, information and everything. And they even did their survey that if you're a child and you're born after 2007, you have a 50% chance of living 100 years old or more. Where
Brilliant.
where before it was like, I think like what, 60 or 70 or something like that.
Yeah, we didn't have it. I think our expiration date was like 70 to 80. Like, I'm pretty sure that was it. Like, expiration was like, yeah, you're getting there. Like, once you, yeah, but like I absolutely can see that, and you can see that there are some things changing. I mean, like, listen, like I'll go for a run, I'll go to the gym or something. Well, when I eventually get back then into those things, like for the gyms
Right.
opening for real stuff. But like, you see that 6-year-old person now that's like running, and you're like, oh shit, like, all right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you do see that there is a change, especially for some people. And again, you want to think that for some individuals, it was access. They're able to do that. But like, because again, 60, 70 years old as a medium age, like that was because majority were those numbers.
Right.
There were still some people that were living, much older because they had the means, they had access to it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that we're in a spot where the information is there. I mean, you're right. Like, our parents' generation, they only had very few things to go off of. What was a newspaper? They didn't really have the internet. Like, no one, I don't think really the internet boom was going on in the 90s and stuff, but no one was like, God. My parents weren't like, I'm gonna go on there and just www dot like my parents weren't doing that. They had no patience for the dial tone. So
Right.
like, it was newspaper, it was that, but it was a lot of like word of mouth and trusting a figure higher than you.
Right.
And now what you're able to do is you're able to, like I said before, go directly. You're, like you said, able to take care of yourself, look into stuff, helping yourself. And you can now go directly to experts in content to know, like, I am this, and this. I'm going to look at this, and this, and you're able to do it.
Yeah.
So like, the biggest fear is that the market then will become somewhat saturated with so many people wanting to be like, I've got the best. Now this, I've got the,
Mm-hmm.
but it just comes down to like, sometimes you got to be an adult in the end and research, like actually research credible people. Like, I mean, I think, and I want to, if you disagree, it's completely fine. But like, sometimes, research to me is like, if I'm researching stuff, like I'm watching videos, I am doing that. But like, if I'm doing a specific thing, I'm going to experts and I'm reaching out to that. But my expert is not going to be, Joe Schmucket Bucket that like has his fucking, YouTube channel. He's like, all right, so here's the deal. I go around and I eat all kinds of healthy foods. Let's see which one's the healthiest. No, Joe, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
Like, no, you're not an expert because you eat things and then you're like, oh, this is cool. I rate it 6 chum buckets out of 7. No, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But like, the people that are making that, the people that are talking about, the scientists behind that, you can look all those things up. You can look into that and be like, oh shit, I didn't know these things. Like, and it's great. I'm looking forward to more, I don't want to say fact checkers, but I'm looking forward to more ways that we can go ahead and verify.
Mm-hmm.
You can verify a celebrity. I don't want to verify a celebrity. I want to verify an expert. Like,
yeah.
I don't give a shit about a verified Twitter influencer. I don't give a shit about an Instagram person. It's like, I got my makeup tutorial. No, verify someone that like is a scientist, please. Like, I want to be able to go right to them and be like, whoa, that person's got 6 degrees. They've got all this stuff. I'm gonna listen to them for a hot minute. I'm gonna do this. Because again, the power is so much now to us, to viewers, where content is genuinely king if you're looking to do whatever, whether you want to be a better human or be smarter in a certain subject.
Yeah, and it's crazy because even when, when you come up with this idea or this belief that you have, and then you find somebody or something similar that fits to your belief, it feels good. It does
Yeah,
feel good, and it's hard to break out of that because most of the times when you break out of that, you find like exactly what you said, the most 100% accurate information, and sometimes it sucks because now you had this belief or this idea, and all of a sudden you get shut down when you find out it's wrong. And I feel like a lot of people don't like to be wrong. It's like you have to at least, it's fine if you're wrong. You're not an expert on anything. And
right.
as long as you're doing your diligence of going through, like what you said, experts, and seeing exactly what it is, and kind of test your ideas, right?
And you should, like, that is like, we're the ultimate scientists. Like, humans are like, we can go ahead and we can test some shit out. We have opposable thumbs. We can do things. We can make things, see if they're going to work. Maybe not. Like, we can do all of these things. Same thing with like the information that we want to digest. Like, and you have my friends, like people that I have befriended in this industry, people that I have, cast. I have everything from radical hate groups I know people in, to cults, to people that have committed some ridiculous acts.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even like throughout all of these things, like learning and like talking and educating yourself about these things. Like, so many people would just go to be like, oh, I read this, that's it, and then taking it for face value. But all of these people that are escaping cults or escaping things, like they got lost in the sauce, but they read something outside of it. People that I know that are in, for instance, for cults, like they were given a certain doctrine for the longest time, and they were like, nope. Information now, they were able to see things in Google, and like that's why they were like, stay away from the internet, y'all. Nope, do not go towards the internet. Stay in your book. Stay in your book. They were like, wait, time out. No. Like everyone else in school is doing it, so they started learning and started seeing all these things. And it's like, it's to give you the opportunity to question why. And I think that's what we should do. Like, we absolutely, I think our biggest thing is we should always question. Coming from the government, coming from your teacher, you should always question. But you should make it a point, though, to answer your fucking question.
Right.
Like, you shouldn't be like, all right, I got this question, and then just walk away from it expecting someone to be like, no, here's the answer. Like, you got to do that on your own.
Right.
Like, when people decide to just get an answer from someone and take it face value, that's how people fall into cults. That's how people fall into radical behaviors, and that's what I've noticed. Like, they've taken things for face value without digesting it for themselves and understanding it for themselves and getting sources. Like, I have seen the worst of the worst in people, and I've heard how they have gotten to there. And fun fact, like, a lot of they don't go and talk to a therapist. Side note, little plug, you have therapists, highly recommend talking to one. But anyway, like, that is it. Because like, you're able to divulge these things and talk about these things. Podcasting is essentially therapy, but like, you're able to talk through some of these things that you're able to, digest and learn about, that you're wanting to answer your questions for. And trust yourself, you will get into like, oh, all of these things make sense then. Like, I've been dancing around like politics. Like, I don't get into the conspiracies or anything, but like I'm very familiar with a lot of conspiracies and a lot of things in that sense, where it's like some of those stuff that people were questioning and all at the time, like, it's true. Like, those, it's sometimes where those things happen and they're true. Roswell was an incident. I use UFO things as like, because it's relevant right now. But like, fast forward, rewind 15 years ago. Would you be able to have a UFO conversation with your family?
Yeah. No.
No. But like, that was a conspiracy back then. And even further back, I was like, no.
Yeah, you'd be called crazy.
So like, I never want to shy away from some of the stuff that people are, but it's like, that people bring up, that people say. And you can't necessarily be like, you're crazy, like, you're nuts. But like, if people lead with, so I've learned on YouTube, time out,
Yeah.
Like, again, reel that one in. But being able to like understand the research, like being able to get the credible sources, I think we have the opportunity with COVID. We're swinging and missing on a lot, but this is, you know, this is where content is. This is that Dostoevsky. This is that life finds its existence within art. This is that moment now where people are flocking to content to learn, to absorb, and we're at such a critical junction over these next few years where you really can see where paths are formed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest, like influencers now have that is some influence. Like, why does one person have 50 million people following them? Why?
Yeah.
Like,
And it's scary to see even who are those followers? You know, are there people that are looking for actually some information and they follow these influences just to get information? It's like that's not the people that you should be following, you know?
and it all varies. Like, there are some celebrities, and that this is like, you know, anytime I work, like I work with talent, I always talk about controlling their narrative across the board. I don't trust production companies. I don't trust networks. I say that now, and I say that in meetings, and this is why they're like, man, that guy's an asshole. But like, I come from a talent perspective in the sense of, you know, you should be able to control your narrative. It's your platform. What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of these celebrities now, and I enjoy it, where, you know, Olivia Munn, phenomenal celebrity that, you know, just within her activism and all of that. So it's like, she's using her platform for good. Like, fantastic. You have a lot of these NFL players using their platform for good. Like, I'm sorry, like I'm cool with a kneel. Like, you know, if the kneel is going on, like, that's great. It's raising awareness, bringing up that question. People fail to realize about, you know, the amount of money that the NFL makes off of the military and off of everyone. Like, when you think about things like that, like, people only take it for face value without doing a little bit of research, a little bit of reading. Some things aren't against it. Some things are just wanting to use their platform to be able to talk. I don't want LeBron to shut up and dribble. I want him to put money into schools, and I want him to be able to keep doing that shit. That's fantastic. Like, name a politician that's using their platform for good. Don't worry, I'll wait.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and I find it kind of weird because you know, it's sometimes we expect, like, for NFL players, we expect them to just go play. So is that something that um that we should look for, like NFL players to just take a knee and then not play a game, or should that be taken somewhere else where it actually makes sense and where they can talk about those things?
I mean, I think it very much is. It's a call a lot of times to someone's humanity. Like, I still think sports are needed during times because, again, it's, you know, in a weird way, back in the day, they would create these sporting events to raise money. Involved also get their mind off of other shit. They'd be like, aha, we're gonna do this. But a lot of athletes now, like, sometimes they view it that way. Listen, why do you want to watch me play a game? Like, other shit's going on. You know, like, I can understand that. I wouldn't hold it against the player. If a player took a knee and was like, I'm not playing today, I'm boycotting this because of this stuff that's going on.
Right.
Respect. He's forfeiting a check. Like, he's gonna lose money off of that. And like, I'm sorry if you're gonna lose money on your bet. I don't give a shit. Like, one of the most like one of the best conversations I think I ever had was about a kneel. I was one that was like, when Kaepernick was doing, I was like, yo, why is Kaepernick kneeling, dude? Like, what's going on, man? And there's a comedian, Michael Che, that ended up saying, is like, yo, what if he's just tired? And I was like, it's a joke. Like, tired, get it, kneel. And he's like, no, what if he's just tired of the shit that's going on? What if he's just tired of seeing this shit that's happening? What if he's just tired of and he's just taking that knee? And I was like, yeah. Like, why can't they do that? Like, why can't someone do that? Like, it's nothing against in regards to, but it's making a stance for something that's going on. And you want people to take note of that. You want people to know that with their platform, they're going to get people that are, you know, in the middle of nowhere, or someone that's like not in like a prominent city or something that's aware of it, to be like, to raise awareness. You want that.
Right.
Like in the end, we still want to be as a community to be like, hey guys, other humans, there's some shit going on. Like, take a note of it. You know what that did do? Even though that took you out of the game for a hot minute, it did make you think about it. So thank you.
Yeah. I could see that. I guess because for one example, like one time I went to a comedy show, right? And this comedian came up, and when you walking into a comedy show, I expect to hear jokes and laugh and all that. But this comedian ended up talking about, the environment, saving the planet, and like I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But I already did my research. I'm all for it. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and I have. But I took this time, and I took I
I paid
decided
the
to,
ticket.
yeah, I paid the ticket to go in there and to laugh and have a good time. So I feel like I'm kind of like taking that as an example.
Well, no, and that's a good one. I mean, were any of the jokes funny about the environment? Like,
No, no.
okay, so like, okay, I mean,
It
was
was
it an
like
actual
what it was kind of
comedian?
like what you said is she used her platform to say, or to state facts and stuff that she knew about. And it's like I understand that.
I mean, I think it's. I mean, as we've said before, this is still, we're in this. It's a crux, but we're still in this moment where like, it's being ironed out. And like, there are moments like that where you're at a comedy show and that's a little selfish. That's a one person thing. Like when you're thinking of a sporting event, there's a backup quarterback. They pay in football, they pay 55 players on that field. Like, you're not going to watch that one player. You want that fucking team to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what you want. Now, but like, even just playing devil's advocate in regards to that, like, I get it. You're paying for that show. You're doing it. I'm paying for a comedy show. I'm not paying for like a soapbox preacher.
Right.
So like, I feel like that still even then needs to be ironed out, because like, if you're not doing jokes in regards to that and you're using your paid performance as like a TEDx, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like, stop. Like that. No, like but that's my whole point. That audience right there for that show was an audience of 35 or 50 or 100, or unless you're in a stadium. But like, I want to say that you were not in a stadium for someone pulling environmental jokes.
Right. Right. No.
Okay. So like, now that person, if they have a platform, yeah, like if you're a comedian and you want to talk about shit, great. Olivia Munn, also about dogs. Whitney Cummings, love her social media. Like, she's still doing her shows. She's still making dirty jokes, doing all that shit. But like, then in the end, you go on her social media, she does talk about foster animals. She does talk about the environment. She does talk about shit like that, where it's like, okay, I get it. So she's using that platform. And I guess that's a different way of like, when I say platform, I mean that it's that stage, it's what stage is that at? Like, if you are, if you're doing a comedy show and it's like, I'm just, I've got 6 shows in Topeka, Kansas today. And I'm going around, and it's like a 10 person like arena. I'm not going to sit there and just talk about the environment the entire time. There's no jokes in that. Know your audience. Right. Seems like this person probably had a bad day and was just like, I want to go and do a TEDx.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, now that we brought up TEDx, and I mean, I saw that you actually did a TEDx. How was that?
Dude, the TEDx was great. I mean, honestly, that was therapeutic too. Like, really? It was, I was coming out of New York, coming out of a scenario and everything in which, my sister had passed away. I'd left a long-term relationship that I came to LA fresh. And nice. It was all about in that sense, finding your tribe, and like, not in a cultural appropriation type sense of like finding a tribe or anything, but like a group of people, a collective around you that you can work and play with. Because I think that that's a fun balance. Like, and it's important. I mean, like you said, you can be isolated, but you still need that engagement. Yeah. And I think as humans, we are social creatures. So like, you need to find, there are the right people to be around you. I mean, there can be energy vampires that just take that shit out. I mean, maybe if I'm like drudging along and you're like, dude, Pete, shut the fuck up, that's an energy vampire. Like it's like, you know, you can have those people that just, it's constant negative talk, and it's always like, I need help and I need this and I need that, and you're constantly needing to divert attention to that. But it's other people that are hyping you up, like, yo, dude, great podcast, can't wait to do this, like, what's going on, do you need help in that podcast? Oh my god, that's awesome, I'll share it. Going back and forth, like those kind of people that across the board, where it's that, or it's just like your friend that's a hype man that's like, yo, dude, you look good today. Like those types of people that you have around you that don't necessarily have to physically touch, but are in your circle. And I think that was my biggest thing of like wanting to come out here and really try to assess that, because as you get older, like you really can only count your friends on one hand.
Yep, for sure.
So it's like, yeah.
How was the process of doing the Tedx?
So a friend of mine had gotten into it. He had, you know, they had asked him to do it, and they were looking into a few other people. And he had asked me about it, being out here in LA. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I ended up having to like write up give a little synopsis and then give a beat of my presentation. And this is what I was going to be talking about. They're like, listen, at the very end, it could be like, you know, 6-7 minutes at the very most. It could be like 20 minutes, however you want. There were people that were like fucking DJs that were just like, hey, by the way, here's what's going on. Boom, boom, boom. And I was like, what? But like, again, that is their expertise. And then using that to translate into some kind of meaning that they were learning. And being able to see that, but I went too far. That going through that process was just the submission, writing that in and submitting it. Once they got back off my proposal and they were like, hey, we really like this, it really was just, here's the date, here's what you're going to go on. Because mine was just straight up, I'm going to walk in, walk out. I got no visuals, I just wanted to go in. And it was to a high school. It was to a high school, and I think it was like early, like, yeah, I think the kids were 17 to 20. I think they were 16 to 20. And it was fascinating because, you know, they were all there to want to hear stories and how it assesses to someone's life, or how it accesses someone's life. And a lot of them were able to kind of like walk up and talk to everyone afterwards. And a lot of people came up and asked us questions. It was a little nerve-wracking at first, because I've done lectures. I've done lectures at some colleges and like like some little high schools and stuff, just about you know, working in TV, working with talent, you know, the idea of what, you know, what works and what you're looking at, and kind of following trends. Like I've done all that stuff before, but this is my first time being able to talk about like, here's some personal shit going on. Here's how I tried to fix it. Yeah. Like, here's what I went through. And then having people go and be like, you know, my sister died. My family member passed away. Oh my God, I've been trying to find like a group of friends. I want to do this. Like that was a different, that became real then. Like that was somewhere like, all right, let's talk this one through. Because like I'm used to, listen, you're great talent. I want to hear your story. This is what's going on with your story. Let's push this out. So like I'm used to that. So they were like asking, I was like, okay. But it was still, I was able to be like, all right, tell me more of your story. But it was so interesting, and so it was humbling being able to just like hear that out and be like, what the fuck was going on with like whatever I had was resonating. And you know, a lot of that stuff, like they weren't like, I'm a pretty white dude. Like if it wasn't for the tattoo, like I'm a pretty white dude. And so within that, like no one was white. And like having those conversations and everything, it was a common ground. It was something where we were able to talk about some stuff, and like the incidence is different. Like some of the incidents of way that like people that passed away, it varied, but it was very different. But being able to just have that conversation, you can tell like a lot of people just in general, they never opened up about it. Like that was one of my biggest things, was being able to like talk. It was hard. It's hard talking about this shit. It's hard being like an open book. But you know, a lot of those kids, and I think at that age in general, like 17 to 20, like that coming out of high school into an adulthood, into like early adulthood, and like, yo, you want to talk about meeting age of dying at like between 60 and 80 and stuff, like we are not far removed from like when you're turned like 17, into the fucking workforce. Congratulations. Like, get a job, you're out, like start a family, time's a ticking.
Yeah.
Like not that far removed. And you have to figure so many people, you know, it's been generational where so many people probably weren't able to process things. And it's just getting to like that generation now, I feel, where they're able to understand a lot of things, not only, you know, and because of content, and I say it's because of content, because of what's given to them, they're able to understand the world and also how to cultivate and understand and develop and be able to like express feelings, emotions that through generations like was always shunned or pushed down. And so like it's good. Sorry, I went on that. Fucking...
No, it's, and even like as you mentioned, as expressing your feelings, your emotions, how you feel, it can even feel even more challenging, especially when you're a man. You know, growing up I was in a very traditional Mexican home. You weren't able to talk about your feelings. You know, they pretty much man up and just do it. It didn't really happen to like now my relationship, where my girl was telling, well, you know, because what I do is I just, you know, what I was doing before, I would just let it boil up in me, and I wouldn't let it out, but I would just let it boil up on me. But then again, you could notice that there was something wrong with me.
You could feel that, and other
Yes.
people could sense it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like anxiety just and all this stuff filled in you. And that's when, you know, my girl now, she's like, well, you know, how am I supposed to help you out? How am I supposed to make you feel better if you're not telling me how you're feeling? If you're not telling me what I did wrong or what's on your mind or anything like that. And you know, after that, it was completely different. Such a big change. But this is stuff that you know, they don't recommend you expressing when you're young.
Absolutely. And I'm sure when she was saying that to you, right away you weren't like, oh man, but it was probably like one of those things where it was like weird, like mental chemical warfare, where like she said it and then you walked away and you were like, fuck, she's right.
Yeah.
like that's what it was. You're like, damn it. But like it's absolutely true. Like that's and again, like you realize though how it's like that was suppressed for generations.
Yes.
And like I'm sure like as we love just kind of doing like some kind of throwbacks, but like we just said, that generation was so much different.
Yes.
This generational shit where it came down to like it was you like, nah, you want your kid being able to express themselves.
Right.
Like my favorite thing that I love watching my sister do when my niece becomes a fucking tyrant is when she tells her like, how are you feeling? What are you feeling? What emotions they're going? Like, talk to me. And rather than her storming away or anything, mind you, sometimes she's looking at my sister, she's like, I'm pissed. And I'm like, I believe her. She's this. Totally believe her.
Yes. Yes.
But that's good. Like, and again, that conversation, like that, listen, man, and that conversation alone with you and your girl, like, that's something that millions of couples still go through to this day. Like, one of the concepts that I have right now is literally, I have a couple of different forms of dating shows. Biggest thing is that form of communication, but the biggest thing from a male perspective, speaking to dating experts, and then just being into the field and speaking to a bunch of singles and struggling with struggled couples, is the fact that still to this day, men are still having an issue with being able to open up about their emotions and everything. And it's like, even with, you know, I'm not using the terms of toxic masculinity and locker room talking, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But it's the fact of the matter is like, it is still there's this still stigma of guys being like, yo, I'm upset. Yo, like this is like this, like there is still that.
Yeah.
Especially as you're getting older, where you don't have like your bros that you had, that you were in high school or you were in college. Like your bro becomes your partner.
Right.
Like, that's oddly enough, it is in that weird way. It's like your partner. Like you still keep your shit separate, but like, yo, bro, I'm gonna kiss you, but like, hey, like,
no homo.
That's it. Like, yeah, that's it. Like, yeah, like that's it. Like, okay, I won't call you bro. I promise, don't look at me like that. But again, you can feel the tension. But like, that's gets to that moment where like, that's, and again, I'm sure that what did she say after you did everything, after you stepped up to the plate? What was her response?
No, now after it was to where I almost released everything that I had, and she was like, "Whoa, whoa, you know what? At
No,
least
too much, too much, too much, too much.
maybe that was too much. Let's take it, little by little." But
Then
that's
oh
what
man,
happened.
that's a keeper. I hope that she's not listening, but that's a keeper. Like that's when she's like, okay, you give me it in spits this time.
Yes, yes,
Like,
yes.
yeah, how about Monday through Friday? I'll give you like,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
that's, I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, we're still like, even with parents, like coming up with strict parents, all of these things, like we're still getting to those, we're still building down those or breaking down those walls, even to this day of, even as a dude, like not only expressing emotions, but like not talking shit, but still standing ground to parents, even to this day. I mean, I can recite, I can recite stories of people that I know that within their families, like even when they were coming out almost at 40, they were still afraid to tell their father,
Yeah,
yo,
that's
you're almost 40, you're good, you're a fucking adult, you can sleep whatever the fuck you want. You could tell me that you were doing like a gang bang. Sorry, this is like your thing's totally going off the rails, but like
too
you could
much.
totally tell me that you were doing all this stuff. I'd be like, yeah, pretty sure our dad's gonna be okay with it. Like, so like that's what's always fascinating. Like still to this day, so many people feel this way, feel like these kind of things about a family member, a parent, or whatever, because we don't realize shit that we carry with us that still affects our professional, personal, and and romantic life through all of that. So
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing you said was strict family, not sharing emotions. Then you tied it right to your romantic partner.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Yeah, and being a dad, that's something that I found it now be super helpful, because now, something that was kept from me, simply just express, I can now, have my daughter, saying, and we tell her at the time, tell us how you feel. And, if she's feeling cranky, we'll tell her, I'm feeling perfect. Perfect. As long as you express yourself, we can handle it, we can control it, and we can do things to kind of make things feel better. But if you're just throwing a tantrum, or doing all kinds of things, and how are we supposed to help you? And it's like, even with that, we need communication, no matter who you are with, no matter who you're talking to, or who's in the conversation.
Absolutely. And like we do, like COVID helped us understand how to the various forms of still being able to communicate. And now it's
Yep.
refining that communication at this point across the board. I mean, and like that's great doing that with your child now, being able to get them to express their feelings, be like, this is what's going on, this is how I'm feeling, is fantastic. I mean, it's watching my niece even from afar go from like, oh, that's just like a thing, because I guess it's like a baby, they're just like, blah. Like they're just, that's a thing. Like they're not like, yeah, they got emotions and stuff like that, but watching her turn into a tiny human
Uh-huh.
is fascinating, because you see how language changes, you see how expressions change, you see how she begins to own it. I'm like, that's it. When you're getting them to express, like my niece, the most adorable thing that I've seen is seeing her be able to be uncomfortable with being embarrassed and making fun of herself a little bit.
Oh.
So like, she, like, my sister calls her like she honk,
Uh-huh.
because like sometimes like she's just a monster. She's just like, she's a tiny girl, but like the room is this big and she's gonna take up that much room. She's gonna make all the way around. And so like she'll trip over herself and everything. And like it would be like, oh, you okay? But it would be like a chuckle. Like you don't want the child to like associate that with, oh, you're bad. So like they tripped, oh, it's haha. And she'd be like, oh, am I getting made fun of? But seeing her be able to understand, like she would trip and be like, came out of no. Great, girl. Awesome. You're doing great. Like she knew, like, all right, making a little joke, making light of the situation, like seeing them become humans, being able to communicate these things, be able to understand the feelings, understand those emotions. That is a gift. And it's like being able to instill that at such an early age. Like you would want to hope, like, I feel like my parents did a pretty good job at like somewhat doing that, but like I do better. Like you want to do better the next generation. So I feel like we're getting to that point where like I'm excited for the I'm excited for the wave of, always go back to talking about content in a sense. I'm excited for the wave of content and wave of things to come out from these future generations, because I do feel like, looking at this glass half full, we're getting to a point where like we're getting momentum built up where it is becoming easier to express. The communication is becoming much easier. There is going to be a much clearer line and a much more respectable line of communication between men, women, people, like across the board, different genders, across the board, different races. Like I do feel like we're building that up where, you know, we can see as humans, we've fucked up on a lot of stuff. Like, and I don't even want to say we, because like I'm not like, it's not all me. Like I didn't use a lot of shit. I don't want to just be like, yo, these old bastards before fuck them up. Like they're like, oh, and now they're coming back and they're like, we thought that was a bad idea before, but like we didn't really know. So like we were just going with it. Why were you just going with it?
Yeah.
Like, it's always strange. I do feel, what was that? Whitney Houston, I believe the children are our future. I think that's what she said. Didn't she saying that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, when I hear stuff like that, and when I hear like parents actually being more involved with their kids, then I have hope for humanity. Because as long as that continues, and as long as, you know, there's more and more parents being involved with their kids, that's all great, you know. Because even, you know, back to, you know, back then, or, you know, I feel like a lot of times the parents didn't really have to do much. You know, I remember just coming home, or sometimes I wouldn't even come home. Sometimes I just go after school straight to my friend's
They
house.
just let us wander, yo.
Yes.
Let us go.
Yes. And it's like, as long as you came home before it got dark, then you're fine. But even then, if they didn't, nothing would happen, you know. And now
And we have cell phones.
yes.
Like that, it was like, and I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, so like even when like cell phones came out, I don't fucking have service. Like they're like, yo, call us when you get there. No, like I'll have to stop and get a payphone.
Yeah.
So what are you talking? Like, no, like they would just be like, yeah, go for it. You guys are gonna go down and play. Come back by 6:30. You're not back by 6:30 yet. They're not calling anyone.
Yeah, no.
Like they're like, wait longer, mom. Like that's it. And now it's like, you know, my nephew just took the flight. He's like, I got a phone. I'll text you. Yeah, I'll just get you at the airport, dude. Like I'll be at the gate.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm right there. Oh, but I'm like, no, you're good. Don't worry about it. But like, it's so weird now, because now it is like you have like parents are there. Like you're able to check in. You're able to be there. Like I liked the independence that we received.
Yes.
But
maybe too
the
much.
nature of the being right now, kind of terrifying.
Yes.
Kind of terrifying dependence for some kids now. Like,
yes, for sure. So
I will admit that.
So let's talk about what is it that you do currently? So you're a producer?
Yes. So I am a creative producer. So I cast, develop, and create content and characters from digital to networks.
Oh wow.
So contractually, I work on a few shows.
Okay.
So, you know, I work on a show as a producer on MTV called Catfish. And then I have, you know, another show that's coming out soon that I work on VH1. And then just, you know, working independently. You know, I previously had an agent over at, well, I don't know if I can say that, but I previously had an agent where I developed content and characters for like various networks, aside just as my own brand. So typically I will take an individual, and it varies. You know, I reference a lot about experts. I reference a lot about people that, you know, I want people that are, and I'm not saying expert in the sense that they have a doctorate, but they own a field. You know, my experts range from like, I have friends that I know or that are familiar, that are talented, that are friends of mine that are, you know, successful from style to being celebrity chefs for like well-known musicians, and then all the way to, you know, professional birders, marine biologists, like everything kind of goes through it, where, you know, what I like to do outside of helping a network or helping a production company, be able to fine tune a concept or cast a show. I like being able to work with individuals that selfishly I say, I want my niece and my nephew to be able to watch and learn from so they can put back in later. And so a lot of my talent ranges from that. They are experts that are good people with strong narratives and great backstories. And they've used a lot of their personal experiences to make a name and essentially like create a pathway for themselves. And all I want to do is take note and help them be able to make something around that I know more people should watch.
That seems
and
like
so that's my
that seems like a very like competitive. I don't know. I might be wrong, but correct me if you need. That seems like a very like competitive and very hard field to get into. How did you first emerge into it?
One of my bosses at the show I was at, that I'm at currently, actually cast me on a show. And instead of going to law school, I went and was talent on a reality show.
Oh, really?
And so I was talent on a dating show on CMT called Sweet Home Alabama. And like I grew up in the country. Like my dad's a retired NYPD cop, but like after retired, he moved us into like Bumblefuck, Pennsylvania. So like I grew up in the sticks. My closest neighbor was a mile away. My dad, I can remember, bought a cow, or so he thought, and then when it got delivered, it was a fucking bull. So like, and then my dad was just like, cool. Like we had turkeys and chickens in our downstairs basement because my dad wanted to like put them in a pen, but wanted to like incubate them.
Oh, right.
In our tub.
Oh, wow.
So like the weirdest shit. So I grew up on a funny farm, but like when I went on the show, they their point was I was doing comedy at the time, and they said, hey, will you just make fun of people from the country and play a role of a city guy? Completely fake. I was working as an intern. They're like, we want you to be a TV exec or a music exec in hip hop, and then like just make fun of people from the country. Okay, cool. I'll do that.
Yeah.
So like I did it. And the next thing I know, I'm like, yo, they just made this, and like I did the rest of this. They didn't write this shit for me. Yeah. So it's like I like the idea of the casting and creative behind it, and then seeing someone take it and run with it. And so, when I got out of the show, I had the inkling of like I like the talent, I want to, but I really like the creative aspect for it.
Oh, okay.
Because when it came to the creative aspect for it, I don't need to worry about this touching base on subjects that I know aren't my subjects. If I would have to be pigeonholed into like, okay, great. Like it's like people being typecast, I have to only do this, this, and this. And so from the creative aspect, I like casting because I could research. I could fall into this. This was another form for me of secondary education. Being able to meet experts, being able to learn the roles from them, being able to talk to them about their subject matter. And it's been cool. I've been able to talk about some shit that I can't talk about from like people that were part of, Black budget programs and like scientists that are working on things that are like tech that's in advance. So it's like, it's been fascinating being able to hear it from these experts and knowing what they're doing and the capabilities of humans. And I'm like, oh man, why aren't more of these people on air? Why aren't we seeing more of these people?
Right.
And so I fell in love with that, and it's competitive. It's competitive to get through, but not now.
Oh,
honestly.
Really?
It's not. You can intern. You can go ahead and get a casting gig. Like you can get involved in TV in whatever way, but content's at our disposal.
Right. And even now you have a bunch of platforms everywhere where you could just put yourself out there.
Absolutely. You can put yourself out there. And here's the thing, if you just want to make stuff, if you just want to hear stories, if you just want to tell stories, go on LinkedIn and find a fucking expert. Go on LinkedIn and just type, what do you want to do? My dog's going crazy right now. They like this. But like, go on LinkedIn and be like, yo, I want to talk to a marine biologist. Like I went through and I like at the time I will, shout out Tom Hurd, the Blowfish. But like for instance, I wanted to work, for instance, I was down marine biology thing, and I wanted to work on some fun, like something fun and scientific. And and I wanted to see interesting tests that people were doing. And I found a guy that went by heavy metal marine biologist. And what that dude did was able to kind of look and take heavy metal music and correlate it with how sharks react.
What?
Exactly. And so one of my favorite projects that never went was like being able to work with him and learning his process of how the double pedal kick drum on a heavy metal drum not only can be used underwater to deter sharks, but can also be able to attract sharks, because a double pedal kick drum, for instance, mimics the heart rate of a fish in danger.
Yeah. Wow.
Didn't fucking know that.
That's crazy.
Like these things, then like you can do these things. Find an expert. Go and talk. Like when people like, how do I want to get into it? What, like I want to cast. I want to do this. Listen, if you just want to work on concepts, find one person that you find as an expert that's fascinating, that's willing to return a message. Send a thing on LinkedIn. Ask them, be like, yo, can I do an interview about you about a certain thing that I really like, and make that into a show? That's it. You don't need to put anything sexy on or anything like that, because I have seen people sell shit for less. Like I have seen people sell shows for absolutely less. I don't like production companies. I don't like networks, because it's still a, I want to say a boys club, but it's not even just the boys club. It's a club. It's still sometimes a sense of like, oh, I don't really want to, and I know firsthand, I don't want to buy from this production company because I don't really like the producer here. I don't really like that.
Right.
It's fucking dirty. I'm sure you can put this on there, but like people watch it like, oh man, Pete's a dick for saying that. But it's true. And networks don't want to buy then from production companies because of that. And then even production companies don't want to work with certain talent because they're like, nah, I don't really like that. Fuck off. Like, that's it. So my thing is, looking at it that way, if you want to create stuff, don't look into industry standards. If you want to work in this industry, grin and bear it by jumping and like looking into being a casting assistant, a development assistant, a production assistant on set somewhere, and multitask. You can build stuff on the side. All you need is the job to get your foot in the door as a credit. But like where we're at with content, I would promote more people to want to make shit, so that, again, for my niece, for my nephew, when they're watching something, they're watching someone that's credible, talking about something that I want them to learn about over, what did I use the name? Joe Schmucket Bucket. Like that.
Yeah. And starting this podcast, I realized that it's not so hard to get a hold of people. Sometimes it can be hard to get a response back, but sometimes all it is just sending a message to somebody, whoever you want to, and most of the time they'll go ahead and reply to your message. But I feel like even before I started it, I feel kind of, scared, or say, why is he going to respond to me? But people, and that's when you really see the person that they are, if they really care about the people and, at least providing some information or some guidance, they'll respond to you. And it's just, on this podcast journey, it's been great, especially to someone like you that, was able to reply to my email, or, other guests that replied to my email or my message. To me, it's mind blowing, because like, wow, I'm having a conversation over here with Pete, I'm having this conversation with this person. To me now, it's like, it's mind blowing, and it's, I don't know, it's just crazy.
But you and you use the word, it's conversation. Like that's the best thing about it. And like you can tell a good gauge from humans. Well, yes. I want. There are some decent humans. People are terrible. So like I'm sure that you get some messages from people that aren't friendly, that they're not into it. Some of those they might be, for instance, experts in their respective field, but like as a person, I'm shitty. Totally understandable. They're good with their experts. Again, different personalities, but a lot of the people, when you reach out to them, it is a conversation. Like, dude, you're doing this, especially when it comes to your podcast. Like, you're inviting people of different occupations, of different expertise, of different platforms in regards professionally, to kind of talk about it. And that's the thing; it's a conversation. A lot of these people, like everyone, myself included, like should want the conversation. Should want someone to at least be able to take something from it, whether it be about their profession, whether it be about like a nibble of like information about something. Everyone should want the conversation. And so like that's the thing. You just don't know where that one conversation will fucking go.
Yes, very true. So you and it being a content producer, right? Are you lucky? Are you like doing interviews for people trying to be on shows, or what does your work mostly consist of?
My work consists of, it's a lot of interviews, a
Oh,
lot of
really?
interviews and creative. So I am, from a creative standpoint, when I'm looking at different shows, I'm trying to follow trends. So I am going through, I am going through all the different various forms of social media platforms, a lot of the trades that are going through it, and just like trending news. Like I look at a lot of things that are societal, and trying to see what's going on, what people are talking about, what is something that, you can gear content or gear some kind of engagement towards that can enlighten, enhance, or be able to acknowledge a situation. And so if I'm looking at content creating in that sense, I'm going through looking at like subject matter. When it comes to individuals and talent, for the shows that I'm on, they have specific guidelines already. So they're like, we're looking at this casting. So I am just getting specific people, specific storylines to those shows and castings. And then on projects that I'm overseeing, in the end, then some of the projects I'm overseeing is gathering content, creating then some of that content around different talent, and then mixing my clients with that by being able to find specific talent and then narrating content around them. Because listen, you come in and you're like, I'm this person, I want to be able to speak about these things, and this is what's important to me. Great, give me a hot minute to go ahead. And for instance, I'm really excited about one thing that we have coming out, that a couple projects. I have one project that's going to be sitting with a popular YouTube network. He's a celebrity chef. He works with a lot of popular people in hip hop circles and in professional sports. But he also, on that same vein, runs, I call it higher education. He does high-end marijuana infused cuisine, and he does medical parties. And it's not just like, yo, man, we're just gonna eat this. No, it's like, yo, do you want to be able to have like marijuana infused like lemon pepper wings with like a nice little drink that's going on, all of this stuff, the entire full course meal, but it's for a medicinal medicated party because, I don't know, for instance, the person that's having it is going through chemo. Right. They have cancer. So high end, but it's all this cuisine. So it's like, you're not getting messed up from it. It's all about having the experience, engaging it. And so it is a different type of experience for people. And it's not just getting high. It's higher education, showing you that these things are highbrow products, highbrow quality. And so like I have from that to, another project that I'm releasing is, I have a pop culture project that is featuring a bunch of different people doing op-ed pieces. And one piece I'm really excited about is, they are a trans man of color. And they talk about when it comes to being trans and transitioning, for instance, especially in 2021, they make the comparison to Elliot Page, the celebrity. They were Ellen Page, previously Elliot Page, since they've become trans, since they transitioned. And, it's a big thing for the community. And Isaac explains that it's a big thing for the community. However, he highlights the fact that it is a completely different experience when you are, for instance, white and affluent and transitioning as compared to when Isaac was 18 and starting his transition and in a predominantly white neighborhood and then he doesn't even talk to his family. So it's like being able to highlight those things where you see the positives, but there's still work to be done.
Yes.
But it's a huge step. And I think that's a lot of things that I want to try to instill is like, there are so many positive things. There are so many great things when it comes to content, but like big picture, there is so much work that still has to be done because you still have, I'm all about like dick and fart jokes. Believe me, you have heard me swear so much. I can't wait for the new Jackass to come out. I'm all for it. I believe that absurdity and I believe absurdity and obscure moments should be infused in life to get everyone away from like the monotony of some of the darkness. Yes. But there's a way to use content so that you can laugh or you can cry, you can have some kind of emotion, but in the end, be a better human
Yes.
and learn a little bit more that you can take with you.
Right.
And now I step off my soapbox again.
So, I mean, you're in social media a lot. You're into, I mean, obviously because there's the content and everything, and you also, as you mentioned to me, you were kind of on a social media break.
Yeah, I'm social media break. This is all new, dude. Like this is when this interview comes out, this will be the first time people will see me in over a year.
All right.
And then I'm gonna, as soon as that's done, I'll shave my face and get a haircut. But like, yeah, man, I took COVID as that way of really examining society. Like I told you, I look at trends. You know, just as my career in general, I try to assess trends. I try to assess individuals. And it was like, oh, I'm not judging, but I'm judging. Like in TV, it's called research. In reality, it's called stalking. And so like I am researching and essentially like judging and being able to understand how people react. And COVID was a fascinating thing to look at, especially like a lot of my friends flocked to having these, you know, platforms of like, now you need to listen to me. And I want you to me, and I want you to, so like when you approached me for this and like I heard about this, I was like, oh, like it's about like, it's not like what's about me, but like it's a conversation that's going through. It's not just like, let me tell you about this. It's going to be something that's going to highlight and be able to start a conversation. And that's what I've wanted. And like what I see with a lot of people through COVID is they've taken this step back and like there has been a weird sense of like entitlement and selfishness when it comes to content, where people feel like, you know, they're influencers now. Everyone's a fucking influencer. And they're like, oh my God, here's my makeup routine. And here's what I have to say about this. And here's what I want to do about this. And I didn't want to do that. I don't want to be I like posting about my fucking dog. Like I like sharing some videos and then putting some music behind it. And so I saw all of these things going on and I retreated. You know, I was fortunate to already have work, but like I took a social media break and retreated into myself. I was like, yeah, I got a whole bunch of shit to fucking work on. And so like, yeah, I examined everything. And while examining myself, I took it as a time to be like, what is this contraption that we're utilizing now? What are these platforms that we're utilizing now? And like, what is the best way for me to approach this when I don't really want that kind of spotlight? I'm not really trying to be like, guys, this is my makeup routine. Let me just tell you about this is my, so I know everyone's been asking, how'd you get this skin?
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But I was realizing there's so many people though that have a voice, that like I know that are experts that like, yo, shit, I would listen to you so much more.
Right.
Why aren't you saying these things? And you know, I fell down this rabbit hole then of like the people that I've wanted to work with and the networks that were like meh, and the production companies that were meh. And then when I go back and I see them, they blew up. COVID, they fucking expanded. And I'm like, oh my God, like this all, what the hell? Like I don't want to say I told you so. I told you so. And so this culmination then came where as I like emerging from this, you know, I wanted to really focus on talent and being able to like pinpoint and kind of stalk voices and experts that I really wanted to put the time into to know that, yo, I'm taking on a different approach. I want to treat you like a client. I want to build stuff around you. I believe that you yourself are a distributor. Yeah. And like of the information, of the knowledge that you have, I think people should hear you. And you don't need it at this point. You can do a Zoom. You can jump on a StreamYard and see an entire studio. You don't need a production company or a network. All you need, baby, is about 100 good gigs. 100 good gigs for Wi-Fi. Just give me that. Yeah, very true. Well, P, I gotta wrap this up, man. You know, thank you very much for coming on. I really enjoyed our conversation. I like how it just jumped all over the place, but we stayed pretty consistent. Yeah, I hope that was useful. I hope you got something out of it, dude. I'm sorry all over the place. It's all good. It's all good. I really enjoyed it. Again, thank you. And I hope, you know, eventually one of the
fascinating things for me is doing podcasts with people that are starting to do. I mean, obviously you come a long way, but just like how we're talking about experts, I like to show people that, that everybody has a journey. And because people sometimes tend to only see what they are now, but they don't really take in consideration the journey that they've been through to get where they are. And I try to also put people on podcasts that are starting now, and bring them on like 10 years later and see what they've become. So it's like, this is where they were 10 years ago, and this is where they are now. Even for me, I mean, this is also a learning experiment for me, where if I have an idea, this is the on the podcast is where really I get to see if it really is a good idea or it's something that I need to work on more. It really checks me.
Right. But
Yeah.
but dude, like I had a lot of respect for you just being able to open up and have the conversation with all the various people, because like that alone is a big thing. Like you're having conversation, like you're doing stuff that millions of people don't do. Like, having conversation across the board with the whole, like some people are just like, I'm gonna stay in my box, in my bubble,
Yes.
not my cup of tea. But that doesn't happen. Like, and again, that's something where like as a parent, you want your child to do that. You want your child to be able to talk across the board to everyone in a safe manner, of course, not be like, oh my God, that's strange dress candy. I want to talk. But like you're setting it up where like that's again a lot of respect for being able to do that. So like listen, if you're ever into if you ever want some people that have some interesting expertise, I know people that were former military members that are now like UFO experts. I know from that to paranormal. So like I can give you a whole bunch of like interesting things. So you just let me know one time how I can help out, and I'll definitely point them in your direction.
Awesome. Thank you, P. And for the people listening, can you just tell them where they can reach you in case they have questions or they want to, just have a conversation with you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I am back on social media starting June 1st. I mean, I'm assuming this is going to go through. So
Yes.
like it's June now. So like I'm back on social media. You can find me I'm a lot heavier on Instagram at the Pete Westwood, Twitter at the Pete Westwood, and then Facebook, I think I'm still hidden, but Pete Westwood.
Okay. All right. Awesome, Pete. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me. I really appreciate it, dude. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. You too.
I'm
Take
just a
care.
child, and thus I'm impatient, and I've been complacent. But I miss our conversation, looking, but I'm an alien.